I come to bear witness that there is no other God but Yahweh, and that Yeshua is his only Son, a prophet and Savior of the world, that there is no other name whereby men shall be saved but by and through the name of Yeshua. And at the name of Yeshua, every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess that Yeshua, the only Son of the most sovereign Yahweh, is Lord. Grace and mercy to the world and to my kingdom brothers and sisters, peace be unto you, and God be glorified. And as Paul said, but by the grace of God, I am what I am. We're continuing in the second of this series, and that is, the series is the African glory story from pharaohs, emperors, kings, and queens through the dynasties. And the man that we're going to deal with this morning is entitled Mansa, Kankan, Musa. King Mansa, Kankan, Musa. And we're going to be talking concerning him, but before we actually get into Mansa Musa, we want to give you the background of why this series is necessary. The scripture tells us in John chapter 8 and 32, it says, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." You see, the colonial rewrite and whitewashing of African history was and has been continued through Hollywood and many other outlets, forms of media, in order to whitewash ancient Egyptian history to destroy African civilization. This whitewash and colonial rewrite has been going on for centuries. And it is necessary for us as African American who happen to live in this diaspora to bring truth to power concerning the whitewashing and the brainwashing, as well as the rewrite of African history. The reason why it is necessary, because it was said in 1832, one of the senators, that's what I said, senators of the United States Congress, Senator Harry Berry, said to the Virginia House of Delegates, "We have, as far as possible, closed every avenue by which the light may enter into the slave mind." Now that light he's talking about is the educational light. He said if we could extinguish their capacity to see the light, our work would be complete. They would be then on the level of the beasts of the field, and we would be saved. So to block education and for Africans to learn at that time was not about keeping the Africans down, but it was more about keeping the white man saved. It goes on and says, there's a book called The Living Creature. You may want to look that up. The Living Creature, The Origin of the Negro, written by a reverend who is a Caucasian reverend, Reverend George R. Halton, Belfort, Canada. And here's what he said. He was one of the leaders of the Latter Rain movement. I don't know if you remember the Latter Rain movement, but I remember the Latter Rain movement, the holiness movement. He was one of the leaders of the Latter Rain movement, and he's a white preacher. And he also, not only of the Latter Rain Pentecostal movement, but he preached concerning the kingdom of truth and the kingdom of God. And he went on to say some diabolical things about black folks. In his book, The Living Creature, by Reverend George R. Harton of Belfort, Canada, stated, "I thought it good to set forth in writing certain evidence that leads me to believe that the Negro is not a descendant of Adam, but to believe that Adam was created for the role of rulership, so the Negro was created for the role of servant slave." Hawkton continued, he said, "No Negro civilization has ever aroused. All race groups of mankind had their civilization. The Chinese, the East Indian, the Arabs, the North American, all these had their own civilization, often highly developed. but history contains no record of a Negro black civilization. His native home given him by God is Africa. Well, he got that right. In his native state, he plowed no fields, harnessed no oxen, developed no government, polished no gems, and carried on no united projects. There he remained today as it was 6,000 years ago. All of this is a colonial whitewashing and rewrite. And you would say, well, why is that important for us to go over? It's because it appears to me for the last close to 60 or 50 years, most of the history that we get in our school books are not even good American history. It is all a rewrite. The slave history is not even told like it needs to be told. The civil rights history is not told like it needs to be told. The Jim Crowism is not told like it really needs to be told. From the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 all the way up to 1865, it's not told like they need to be told. The Native American that was harboring slaves, the actual 5 so-called civilized tribes of Native American did not release slaves until 1866. A lot of times we point our finger at the white man, but the red man, the master, the red man was our master as well. So all of this history has not been brought out, and as a result, the history that we do get about our people is what I call watered down history. They like to show this history, and this is fine. They like to show from Africa to the dynasties our history. They love to talk about, Mary McLeod. They like to talk about Shirley Chisholm. John Henson, if you didn't know, was our first black president that's recorded. They want to keep you with Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. But note here that they spend no time with Marcus Mosiah Garvey. A Garveyite. Marcus Garvey is one of my mentors. And he's a man that came from Jamaica that did some great things in this country. But what people don't realize that George Washington Carver and Marcus Garvey was basically operating from the same thing. Then we have Oprah Winfrey and Maya Angelou. Now, why is that important? Because if we can keep you here and don't tell you where you came from, then sooner or later you'll start to believe that you can't get to where God wants you to be. See, if you don't know where you came from, it's going to be impossible for you to know where you're going. That's why this history is important. Our children need to know this history. I'm surprised they don't have it in school where the children can write a report on Imhotep. Where they can write a report on some of the ones that I'm giving, because I believe that the more they learn about their glorious story, what happened before they got to America, I believe that they'll pull their pants up, they'll act right, and know that they're somebody. But we have been trained to hate ourselves, and we have been trained to go against ourselves. We have been trained just to let stuff go like somehow things going to straighten out on their own. They're not going to straighten out on their own. We're the only group of people on this planet, I didn't say in America, I said on the planet, that are a very, very special group of people. We are the first ones that was ever on the planet. Everybody else came some 5,000 years later. We're it. When God looks at this nation, when he looks at the world, he see a black man. Now, some of your ears may not understand that, but I challenge you to challenge me to do your research, and you'll bump into everything that I'm telling you. One of the great men of the Bible that we want to deal with this morning, his name is King Mansa Musa. Can everybody say Mansa Musa? Come on, say it like you should be proud of him. See, you should be proud of King Kankan Mansa Musa. He was a brilliant man. He wasn't just a regular person. He was completely brilliant, like Imhotep. Remember, Imhotep was a multi-genius. He had many, many gifts. He was a surgeon. He dealt with stars and astronomy. He was a brilliant man. And now we're coming to another brilliant man by the name of Mansa Musa. Will the church say Mansa Musa? Come on, say it like you know him. Say Mansa Musa. Okay, Mansa Musa ruled from 1312 through 1327. He was worth more than $400 billion in today's currency. Mansa Musa was a master businessman in gold, salt, and ivory, the main commodities during that time. He was a major influence of the University Timbuktu and also the University Sankore. He ruled in the province of a place called the Mali Empire. Mansa Musa was brilliant. The University of Timbuktu, Sankore. Remember, you have two universities. You have the University of Sankore, you have the University of Timbuktu. Timbuktu is the location. University of Timbuktu, Sankore, and the University of Sankore. Now, what does that mean? That simply means that during that time, they had already developed great scientific things that they was doing. And we'll note that Imhotep had a role to play in that as well. Because in this university, their main areas of studies, like every university, have an emphasis on what you can go and get a degree out of. They have an emphasis on what you can take, the courses you can take. Well, if you look at the University of Timbuktu, Sankore, the emphasis was astronomy. Astronomy. You can go there and get a degree in astronomy. Mathematics. You can go and get a degree in mathematics. History, and you can get a degree in medicine. And we're sure that Imhotep has something to do with that. All of these two great men that we have, Imhotep and King Mansa Musa, was brilliant black men. Brilliant black men. Note here that they wasn't in the hut, as the colonial rewrite would say. Hear this. Many times when they went over to Africa to do their rewrite, or let's say they went over to Africa in order to check to see what was true and what was not, they would bypass civilization and go out to the bush. When they went out to the bush, they would talk to some of the pygmies and some of those tribes out there where they didn't have clothes, and they was totally comfortable where they was walking around with certain outfits because it was too hot. So when we look at Africa, you can't look at Africa and living in a freezing America. This is not the North Pole. You can't see Africa from the lens of living in Chicago. You can't see Africa from the lens of living in Michigan. What you call uncivilized was civilized to them. It's like the Native Americans, when the so-called Europeans came over to America, they thought the Native Americans, which is not Native Americans, because the first people in America was the Fulsons, and those Fulsons was here roughly 300 to 500 years before the Asians came over. When the Asians came over, they mixed with the Africans, and those Asians and Africans make up Native American. But see, don't nobody want to talk about the truth about history and how it has been rewritten. So what happens is by the time those Africans had settled, none of that history was ever brought out. When they brought it out in a way that Africans didn't have a great part in America. And that's called colonial rewrite. It's called whitewashing. It's like getting paint, putting it on the face of dark statues. That's whitewashing. As well as cutting off the nose, because if you cut off the nose, then the nose itself is a identifying marker of what nation or what group of people that built the pyramid. So they would cut the nose off, or they would trim the nose down, or they would say that that the equipment was so dull that when they was trying to make the lips, they made them thick and full because they didn't have the king-pointed equipment to make the lips like they need to be. All a colonial rewrite, trying to rewrite history. And who did they send over to Africa to go out to the bush? They bypassed Imhotep. They bypassed King Mansa Musa. They went out to the bush because, number one, they couldn't believe that the Africans had great civilization while Europe was in the back caves trying to figure out how they're going to stop their own civil war. So they was wrestling with this. So when they went over to Africa, they bumped into all of this stuff. And they didn't want to give credit to who actually built the pyramids. And to this day, Africans who happen to live in that diaspora in Africa still don't get credit for building the pyramids. They still don't get credit for building the Sphinx. You say, well, why is that important? We live in America. It's important because everything about you came from Africa. It's important because if you deny Africa, you deny yourself. If a man don't know where he came from, how is he going to know where he's going? How's he going to know where he's going? Who is he going to identify with? It's amazing to me that everybody else can celebrate their history, but when it comes to us, even some of us Negroes, we don't have to say all that. We don't want to get the white man mad at us. Well, Negro, he's already mad at you. He ain't trying to help you do nothing. And if it is, it's all about him getting the benefit out of it. So they was doing a colonial rewrite, writing history, changing history. Had you reduced to being a puppet dog. Put a law in the books in the Constitution, say you 3/5 human. Got you running around here thinking you're doing something. When your communities are going down. When your women are swinging on poles. When everything else is going around in your community. And you're finding yourself saying, when are we going to get out? The only way we can get out is that we got to go back to who we were. We got to go back to our history and learn our history. And maybe within the next 50 to 75 years, maybe my grandkids' kids may begin to have their own shopping malls, may begin to build their own, be doctors and lawyers, be able to build up communities. But what I see right now, too many of us are fighting us, so it doesn't seem like many of us are going to go too far because the fight is always inward. Why? Because we don't know where we came from. That's why I'm here today to give you a snippet of who your real forefathers are. So we talk about Mansa Musa. He was a master businessman in gold, salt, ivory, his main commodity during that time. He was a major influence of the University of Timbuktu in the empire of Mali, studying astronomy, mathematics, and medicine, history and medicine. This university was so powerful that Harvard and Yale and Princeton combined could not deal with the great minds of University Timbuktu, University Sankore. That's what I said. Harvard, Princeton, Yale. You can take all the universities together and they couldn't compete with the minds of University Timbuktu. Well, why would you say that? Well, University of Timbuktu had 100,000 people in attendance. The university had over 25,000 scholars. Timbuktu was the first and the oldest university which was black. Can everybody say black university? I'm not talking about these black universities we have now, and they are brilliant. A lot of times we don't know about black university, but I've been to one and I've been around quite a few. They are brilliant because they keep you in contact with where you came from. They keep you in contact with not only where you came from, but where you can go. University of Timbuktu, Sankore, University of Sankore also housed some great minds across the world, such as men like Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Euripides, and Aristophanes. Some of the Timbuktu University, Sankore, these great minds would come and sit and listen to the great teaching of these great scholars at University of Timbuktu. They would sit and learn what is not, the illness of a thing, the stuffness of a thing, how is a thing made. Scholars came all over the world, from Rome, from Italy, from Spain, from Great Britain, from Europe. They came all over the world, from Asia, from China, all over the world to sit at the knee of the professors and scholars at University Timbuktu, Sankore. But they want you to think you stupid. They want you to think that you're dumb. They want you to think that you can't learn, not knowing that your forefathers are the inventors and the authors of all education. There would be no science if you can't talk about science without talking about Imhotep. You can't talk about business. You want to be in a business? Then your motto should be Mansa Musa, a master businessman. He had more than $400 billion that they could even come close to counting. Why is that important? is because some of us want to emulate Donald Trump. And let me tell you something. Before Donald Trump, there was Mansa Musa. Before any of your so-called billionaires, there was Mansa Musa. You see, Mansa Musa came into power in 1312. When he was crowned, he was given the name Mansa. The name Mansa means king. At the time, much of Europe, hear what I'm saying, much of Europe was famous. In other words, they were starving to death, while Mansa Musa and other great colonies in Africa was doing well. Those independent states, they was doing well. But Europe was in the middle of starving to death while having a civil war. But many African kingdoms was thriving. Why did they have to do a rewrite? They had to do a rewrite because the white racist people at that time could not stand the fact that there was African civilization that was thriving and doing well while they were still trying to figure out how to read, how to write, and going through all this when African civilization was already totally flourishing and thriving. You say, well, why you have to say that? I have to say that because if a people can reduce you to 3/5 human, don't you have a right to say where they were while we was thriving? If a people can reduce you to the beasts of the field, and you wonder why on these civil rights movies and you see the people protesting and you see the sign that's saying, I am a man. Why would a man have to say, I am a man, if he wasn't taught or to believe that he was not a man? The mere fact that he walked with a sign saying, I am a man, is an indictment to the United States of America because they put that garbage in the 3/5 clause that he's not a man. But we have some of these slacky Negroes that don't want to accept it for what it is because they want to please the white man. What can I do to please the white man? You know what the white man said? Die, Negro, die. That's how you're going to please me. Now you say, now that's kind of brutal. Well, I think it's polite because many of them was castrating us, cutting our privates off, hanging us from trees, raping our women, murdering our children, turning our sons and our daughters out into homosexuals. We don't want to talk about that, but when you go back and go deeper, you'll find out all of those things were taking place. But know this, we are still here. We are a resilient people. We're a people that will never quit. We're people that will never die because with God we have power to survive. Will the church say amen? Now see, everybody ain't ready for this because Bump saying they're doing Black History Month, I say it every doggone day. And the reason why it's important to hear it is because some of our people will still have been flushed down the toilet, but they think they're in a swimming pool. Flush down the toilet with all kind of feces, but you think you're in a swimming pool. Right now, our position have not changed since 1866. Our financial backing is still 1/2 of 1%. The only people that's holding us back is ourselves. And I'm trying to wake you Negroes up. Wake up! Your time is here. When you wake up and understand how this game is played, that's what I said, game. You thinking it's about emotion. Let's integrate. Let's get together. Why can't we all get along? You're not going to get along. It's not designed that way. Only kingdom people can get along with other kingdom people. If you black, you white, you Asian, you Chinese, you Japanese, whatever race you are, if you're under the kingdom umbrella, one flag dipped in blood, if you're that person that's under that one flag dipped in blood, then you are a kingdom citizen. And those are the only one that can be able to get along in America, no matter what race group you are. But today, we have some white Christian races. They still want it in the natural as well as in the spiritual. White Christian races. And somebody think, well, why can't they be black Christian races? Because black people have no power. We have no power to influence. We have no power to set up universities right now. We have no power to hire. We have no power to do anything. The only power that we have, as I told you before, I hope you have that power in your own house. Outside of your house, you are powerless. And you have been powerless for hundreds of years. So why Mansa Musa? I want you to know that before we got to America, we was running things. Can somebody say we was running things? See, Mansa Musa expanded the borders of his empire of Mali. He annexed the city of Timbuktu, reestablished power over many other countries. In all, his empire stretched for 2,000 miles. Now think with me for a moment. 2,000 miles will be from here to California, I believe, or somewhere in that vicinity. 2,000 miles. Mansa Musa was running the whole empire of Mali. Had 10 cities, and that was Mediterranean, Senegal, Gambia, Ghana, Burkina Faso, Mali, Nigeria, and Chad. Here's one major man, Mansa Musa, king, ruler, ruling all of that territory, running things. But when we read the Right Reverend George R. Houghton, he said that we had no civilization. He said that we polished no gems, that we had no armies. He said that we were just monkeys swinging on trees and didn't do nothing until a white man came and saved us. Can you see the rewrite? How instead of going to talk to Imhotep or talk to King Mansa Musa, what they did, they went into the backwoods and worked their way out. Why? Because it made them feel good that they were better than the so-called native of the land, not knowing that the native of the land had already established medicine. You see, the white man that did this rewrite, he the one that did the rewrite. He the one that did the colonial rewrite. He the one that whitewashed history. And don't be getting mad because I'm talking about it. I know some of you that may listen to this CD. When a black man starts talking about what happened to us in our history, people get antsy. They get mad. But you don't get upset when the Jews talk about the Holocaust. You don't get upset when the Irish talk about what they've been through. You don't get upset when the Italians talk about what they've been through. You don't get upset when the Europeans talk about what they've been through. It's only when the black man start talking about how much hell he had been catching for the last 444 years where everybody get antsy. Well, I say unto you today, get antsy, because this truth needs to go forth. The world needs to know who we are, that we are an exceptional people that have been through a lot. We've been through a lot. We came on boats and ships to this country. We shouldn't have to bow down. We should not have to hold our head down, worrying about somebody that's going to misinterpret what we say. We have been bamboozled. Malcolm was right. We have been run amok. Yes, he was right. We have been led astray, taught to be 21st century slave, living in this diaspora. And it doesn't seem like even now, 444 years, we are no more ahead than we were when we were slaves. I don't know about you, but I'm sick of it. Silence no more. That's why we don't wait to have Black History Month once a year. We have African American notes every Sunday. That's why that's important to me. Our young people need to know that what they're doing is important. That's why they have to study hard. That's why they have to get good grades. My mother told me, boy, you got to be twice as good as any white person to get the same job. You can have a college degree and they'll choose somebody with a GED. We've been playing too long. We've been going through the motion too long, trying to pretend that we are one. No, we got to start over again. We got to get our young people to understand that they can have business, that they can hire people just like the Hispanic does. Why are you breaking your neck to go and work for somebody when you have the same brain, the capacity to learn what they learn and start your own business? Hire your own people. Develop your own people. Do what you know is right for your own people. That's why it's important to talk about Mansa Musa, because Mansa Musa was a world ruler. And sometimes we still acting like slaves. You see, Mansa Musa was not the one that worried about a budget, because he had much money. See, you only worry about the budget when you struggle with the money, but when you got money, you don't worry about a budget. Well, let church say amen. You see, he brought a caravan stretching as far as the eye could see. That's what I said, a caravan. His entourage of 10,000 of soldiers. So when he went across the world, he had an entourage of 10,000 soldiers, civilians, and slaves. Not the slave that you see what we went through. They will be considered indentured servants or maids. In other words, he had people keeping those people that was a part of his army, taking care of them. They wasn't castrated. They didn't chop off their head. They didn't chop off their arms. They didn't teach them how not to read. Many times, servants and maids during that time, or indentured servants, were as smart as the master, was as smart as those that they were serving. So slavery then is not the same as slavery as you went through. I want you to understand that no other people could have endured the things that we as African Americans went through. I say to you, and I say it again, no other people could endure the things that we went through, including the Native American, the Irish. They wasn't going to get out in them fields in the hot sun. I mean, working from sun up to sundown, working so hard until their muscles fell off their bones. You see that? I want you to know that. Working from sun up to sundown, that's what I said, until their muscles fell off their bones. And when they got through working, they put them in a place and killed them and brought in another group of people. You don't know who you are. I'm here to shake you up, rattle you and roll you, to remind you that you are significant in America. Don't you ever hold your head down. Stick your chest out. Hold your head up and don't take a back seat, and never, ever use the word minority. We have never been a minority in this diaspora. Only in America that we're considered to be minority. Ham had 30 nations. Japheth had 14 nations. Shem had 26 nations. We've never been a minority. God has made us a majority, and he put us in position where we can rule and reign. And Mansa Musa was one of his prized servants. Why is this important for you to know? It's important for you to know because if you got a slave mind, you're going to function like a slave. It's important for you to know because if you think of yourself as somebody bad, then you're going to act bad. It's important for you to know that you came from great history, and your history is tied up in his story. And who is his story? His story is Jesus Christ. You came from great stock. But the world don't want you to know who you are, because when you know who you are, you begin to do things that they don't expect for you to do. So Mansa Musa was a great man. He was bearing gold. His soldiers had gold staff. They was dressed in fine linen. And many camels and horses was bearing the abundance of gold. On the trip to Cairo, he spent so much gold and donated so much money to the poor that he caused the inflation. It took years for the city to fully recover for the currency crisis. This man was rich. I'm not talking about rich in the sense where he just had a few billion. He had over $500 billion. And that was what he had with him, but not counting the gold mines, the ivory mines, not counting all of the other things that he had. Fact about it, the world was shook when they saw Mansa Musa. Can everybody say Mansa Musa? See, he was King Musa. Now, why is that important? It's important because when you know that history, it should do something to you. I know it does something to me. It caused my back to get stronger and my legs to get firmer. It caused my mind to be able to regurgitate any of the negative toxicity that I've been given over the years. It caused me that when I look at a white man or any other group, I can hold my head high, stick my chest out. I am not a victim, I'm a victor. I came from great stock. I came from a long way. My mother and my father are close to next generations of slaves. My father was a sharecropper, so I know who I am. I know where I came from, and I definitely know where I'm going. It's important for you to know your history so you can pass your history on to the young people. Will the church say amen? But sometimes we don't want to do that because we don't want to come across as people not going to like us. We get upset because we feel like, let's get along, and we want to integrate. Write this down. Integration did not work for us. Not only integration did not work for us, it will never work for us. Because with integration, you must have aggregation. And if you don't have aggregation, you're just hanging out with a group of people that can't stand you. It's amazing how even with the law of diversity, that's why I told my wife a few years back, I will never teach diversity, because diversity came from the law of 1705, and all that was to divert black people from the original goal. They call it diversity. What do? You get 5 black people, make sure you got a white person right in the middle, so the white person run back to the massa, tell the massa what they doing in order to divert them, diversity, to divert them from their original goal. Oh, you've been tricked, you've been bamboozled, you've been run amok. Then they give you a stupid Willie Lynch to come in and tell you how to hate one another because of the shades of skin. And now you hating your brother and your sister that came from the same mother. And you thinking you better because you light, and she thinks she better, thinking you worse because you're dark-skinned. It's been played on us. Why is it important to know the history? Because when you go to Africa, if you go right now, you're going to find many different shades, but they weren't moving in shades until the 1400s. African was just Africans until the white man, the great navigator, came over and started to poison the tree from which the African ate their fruit. And that tree, the most powerful tree that you can have, is the tree within your mind. What fruit are you producing in your mind? And that tree was pausing, and to this day we're still trying to get to the root to deal with the contaminants of that fruit. You see, Mansa Musa was so brilliant until they put him on a map. He had a gold coin. They put him on a map. That's how brilliant he was. He was not broke. He was not busted nor disgusted. He was a brilliant man that was completely wealthy. Why is this important for you to know? Because material riches was the king's only concern as a devout Muslim. Yes, he was a Muslim. And here's where we get it twisted. You see, the white man has got us so thinking that if you're not Baptist, then you shouldn't get along with other people that are black, that may be Presbyterian. He got it twisted. He got us want to congregate with who we think we are. Well, I want to run with the Baptists, or I want to run with the Methodists. I want to be around those jumping and hopping Pentecostals. I want to be around those Koji, and he got us divided. It's a brilliant strategy. It's a brilliant religiosity strategy that came from the devil, from the pit of hell. In order to divide a people, you elevate a people. If I want to divide you, I get you to think better of yourself than the person that's next to you. It's a brilliant strategy. He too black, get back. She too light, she all right. And what we do, we feed off that. And we divide ourselves. It's a schism. It is strategic. It's surgical in its implementation. It's designed to keep us fighting with each other. Because as long as we're fighting with each other through skin tone, then we'll fight through each other through businesses, then we'll fight through each other through theology, then we'll fight with each other through the mind, and we'll find ourselves always in a fight. That's how they maintain control. Because we want to run it, and we're still asking the white man to let us do something. I had someone to tell me the other day about a meeting that they had in a particular city. I think I was sharing this briefly with a colleague here, and they said, one of the white politicians said, "We will help them if they ask." And I got very, very angry with his reply. We will help them if they ask. I am sick and tired of asking the white man for anything. Not just the white man, especially the Hispanic man. They pose as your friend, but they're not. The Asians pose as your friend too, but they're not. And I wish we had a bunch of them in here so I can tell it to them to their face. The Chinese pose as your friend, but they're not. The Indians, there's one that I deal with right now, pose as your friend, but they're not. Well, why you say that? Because they don't come shop at your stores. Why don't they shop at your stores? Because you have none. And if you had some, they still wouldn't shop because it's about them. It has never, ever been about you. What does that mean? It's called aggregation. See, they learned one thing: come to America, aggregate, and get everything you want. We was sold to this country, came to America, and first thing we want to do is integrate. Oh, do the white people like us? Some of my best friends, whenever you hear a black person or a white person saying, some of my best friends are black or white, no, they're wrestling with the issue of race. Because the moment you say some of my best friends are black or white, you're telling me you really don't care about them. You should be able to love everybody and anybody, irregardless of their color. Now, this ain't an indictment. This is a fact. And it ain't an alternative fact. It's real. You can prove it. If white folks were so concerned about East St. Louis, there are some stores down there right now. If they was concerned, they'll be shopping there at least once, twice a week. And if some of us black folks was concerned, we'll be shopping there once. Well, I don't want to go down there. That's because you're scared of your own people. You locked yourself out. You're scared of your own people. And you blaming the white man. Why can't the white man help him? So when I heard that, I'm saying, no, he didn't. I almost went to Shaquita and said, no, he didn't. If the Negroes would just ask, we'll help them. Do you see behind that statement? If they would ask, we'll help them. My thing is, bump asking you. Forget about asking you. Let's come together and build our own communities. Take that $1.5 trillion and build our own communities. Let's do some aggregation, some motivation, some stimulation. Let's build our own community. Get a water supply line. Let's get some communities where we can find black businesses that want to build in those communities. Now you say, well, that's segregation. No, that's aggregation. Well, you say, well, why we do that? That's what they're doing. Why is it that we got it in our mind that we got to love everybody and bow down to every other group when they are literally urinating on us and convincing us that it's raining? When are we going to take a stand and do for our own community? You know, well, that's Pastor Carey, now you preaching hate. No, this is some powerful love I'm preaching. It's amazing. We've been brainwashed that when we hear stuff that's right, we get mad. Right now, the Hispanics are number 3. Really, number 2, Asians number 3, we're number 4, and fastly moving to 5 and 6. As black people, we have no infrastructure. You're trying to run from East St. Louis, but I love East St. Louis. Every time I go down there, I see the infrastructure, and I'm telling you, it's right. The issue is we need people that can go back and build businesses down there, put up banks down there. All of these cities that was thriving years ago, such as Brooklyn. You talk about Brooklyn with the pole, but black people built Brooklyn. They was much farther ahead than some of these so-called elevated Negroes. They was so far ahead in the 1900s. What do? We run from our own people. We won't help our own people. We want to integrate. Integration didn't work for us. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. You got some friends that are white, Asian, Hispanic, but it don't work for you. Well, Pastor Carey, why you say that? The reason why I say that because they're not going to love you like you love yourself. When I go to some of these places and buy food from them, I see black people in there working for them, but I know who's the owner of the places. And they're happy to see you come and buy their stuff. What's the point? The point is, let's stop blaming everybody else and look at ourselves and support our own businesses. Get with some brothers and sisters that want to do some real stuff. Find some brothers and sisters that want to aggregate and get out and make businesses flourish for our community. For those of you that are my age, maybe a little bit older, a little bit younger, this is your last stand. Because if we don't help them get to where we need to be, we're going to be a permanent underclass until Jesus comes. Crying about the white man. I heard a young man last night, I was listening to him, and he's up in Chicago because they're getting ready to bring in martial law. And I listened to him, and I was passionately listening to him. I really wanted to hear what he says, and he said a few things that kind of got to me. And he said it in a kind of a whining, whimpering kind of way, which caused me to get a little angry with him. His phraseology came across like this. They got all that money in Chicago, and they won't stop the white police officers from killing us. They got all that money, but they want to invest in the communities to be able to help these black youth groups from doing what they need to do. They got all that money, but they won't give to us what they gave to the Hispanics under the 14th Amendment. He didn't say that, but I know that. They got all that, and they won't treat us right, and they just won't help us to do better so we can do better for ourselves. And he kept on, they got all that money, and see, that's why the devil don't want the right people to have the right money. They got all that money, and all he was just saying, it was a victim stance. His whole conversation was about victimization. When is the white man going to come and save us? Because it's obvious we can't save ourselves. They got all that money. When they going to come and stop us from killing each other? They got all that money. When are they going to come and help us build our community? They got all that money. When are they going to come and make our school better? They shouldn't elect this woman because she don't understand public school. They got all that money. When are they going to come help us? When is the Mansa is going to come and take us out the field? He's not coming. I'm sorry to tell you, you 21st century Negroes, he ain't coming. If you're going to get up from where you're going to get up from, you better start right now. And you better start with your children. Teach them how to run a business. Teach them how to save their money. Teach them how to love their people. Teach them how to do right in school. Teach them how to stand up for what they believe in. Teach them their history. Teach them to love them neighbor as they love themselves. You got to teach your children right now so they can have a future for tomorrow. If you believe that, somebody shout glory. Stop waiting on the white man, Hispanic man, the Asian man, the Indian man, whatever other color man. Stop waiting on people to come to do for us as for what we can do for ourselves. Because they ain't coming. And as long as you sit back believing these white trinized historical lies, you'll be forever perpetuating a crime against yourself. And you'll look back 30 years from now, see, at least I can say I saw how it works. I grew up in Jim Crowism, and I saw black banks, I saw black schools. As a matter of fact, every school I went to until I was in high school was black. I saw black principals, black teachers. Lived maybe a block from Jackson State University. I saw black professors all day long. Went to their homes and played with their sons and their daughters. I grew up understanding that Marcus Moselle Garvey was right. I grew up understanding that Ida B. Wells was right. I grew up understanding that even Sojourner Truth as well as Harriet Tubman was right. I grew up with a sense of understanding that of community and black people have to stay together. That when one black family moved into the neighborhood, they was considered to be a part of the whole neighborhood. I grew up when they did not lock their doors and bar up their windows, that you could literally walk in one person's house and they know who you are. I grew up seeing the love of black folks. I grew up around the love of black folks. And now I'm watching that love that evaporated. Most of our cities have no businesses. Most of us, as soon as we finally make it, we run to another neighborhood and won't drop back to visit. All of our kids know now is gang banging, thuggery, and how to keep their pants low. And most of our young people, and this has been planned, has been feminized. Men and women, men like Tyler Perry, that's what I said, showing our boys to accept feminization. I think a man should never put on a dress. What you doing with a dress on? Why a man got some lipstick on? Why you got a wig acting like a woman? So we need to get back to the root of the teaching. We need to get back to the root of what this is really all about. So our young boys are being feminized and our young girls are being masculized. Young girls want to act like a man, boys want to act like a woman. And both of them having problems with pulling their pants up. And we sit back and observe this garbage and think that it's normal. It is not normal. I didn't grow up that way. Years ago, a man was identifiable. Today, you don't know what you're looking at. What's the point? The point is, if we're going to grow up as a nation and be the nation that God intends for us to be, we got to start all over, folks. And if you're blessed and fortunate to have children, you should be honored to read your children their history. Nobody complain about it when the Jews does it. Before a Jewish boy turned 12 years old, he already knows his history. They call it a rites of passage. They call it a bar mitzvah. Before he turned 12 years old, nobody complained to them. When you're teaching him about Mansa, Musa, and Imhotep, Cleopatra, nobody complains when every other race group does it, but when we do it. Here's why they don't like it for when we do it, because they know when we get ourselves together, there is no other group on the planet can hold us back. So the whole motive is to keep us divided so we can be conquered. Now, what does that mean? Whenever there is equality, we rise. Hear me now. Whenever there is equality, we rise. Well, how do we prove that? We prove that in the Olympic Games on the track field. The best man what? Wins. We prove that on the basketball court. 85% of all professional athletes, some say 85, 90% are all black. Why are they all black? Because we prove superiority on the basketball court. We prove superiority on the football field. Whenever the playing field is equal, we rise. Whenever the playing field is equal, we rise. We rise in sports, but the white owner rise in money. So we're still in a position of slaves. And the only way we can rise in sports truly is to become black owners like Michael Jordan and a few others. But we're missing it. There's bunches of you in here right now. If you can catch this paradigm shift that God has given you today, your life will never be the same. Stop looking at black folks as your enemy and attack the enemy that is within you. Stop looking at black folks as a person that can't make it, and start looking at yourself as someone that not only can make it, but are going to help everybody else make it. You see, Mansa Musa is a great example. After reigning for more than 25 years, Mansa Musa died in 1337. He was succeeded by his son Mahan. The king's richest legacy persists from generations even to this day. Now, what does that mean? That simply means that God has allowed us to see these prototypes. And God has me this morning talking to you in this way, so you understand that greatness is within you. But you have to release His power. Start a business. Think black. Buy black. Support black. Oh, somebody got spooked with that. Ooh. Somebody wanted to say this here. Shh, pastor. Shh, don't say that loud. They're going to think you're a racist. I can't be a racist. I ain't got no power. They're going to think you're a racist. Don't say that too loud. Let me say it again. Think black. Buy black. Support black. If it was up to me, we'll be shutting down a whole lot of places around here and demanding that they respect black. Now, why would I say that? Because they don't respect black. You know why they don't respect black? Because black folks don't respect black. When you start holding your head out, sticking your chest out, and stop acting like a slave, and start acting like that you are a beautiful and powerful people that no other race group on the planet has been through but you. You are an exceptional people. Can someone say, I am exceptional? Say, I am exceptional. Talk back to me and say, I am exceptional. Now, I want you to notice here, you are a non-immigrant. We're the only people in America that did not immigrate to the United States of America. We didn't get on boats and voluntarily come. And when we did, we ran around the world 5 times before 1512. It's called for us forced migration. Forced migration means they come and get you and bring you back. We are non-immigrants. We are the guests. We are America's guests. And America has treated her guests worse than a dog. And that alone separates us from any other immigrant. We are different with different classifications. When you know that you are a non-immigrant, you're so much a non-immigrant and they're so threatening of you until all other race groups across the country, you know what they can do? They can bring people in from Canada. They can bring them in from Russia. They can bring them in from Ireland. They can bring them in from any other white nation, Spain, Germany. They let them come in from all the other nations. We are the only group of people in America's Constitution where we cannot have immigration on a regular basis. They had a boatload of Haitians coming here until Ronald Reagan allowed them people, and also in Nigeria, Monrovia, Liberia, had them out on the boats and watched people get murdered because they did not want them to give them exit to be able to come to America. Check it out. We're the only group of people where you don't see a bunch of folks coming from Haiti, coming from Africa, unless they got to go through a whole lot of loops. But everybody else got dual citizenship. They come back and forth. What does that tell you? It tells you that America like us right where we at. We ain't going to hurt nobody. We go to church. We sing, we dance, and we give everybody else our money. And America says, why would we want to mess that up? That's why what they did to this brother, Marcus Messiah Garvey, Universal Negro Improvement Association, you know what they did to this brother? They caught him up in a stupid plot They said that he was messing around with money and taking money from the wrong people, something like that, with an empty envelope under J. Edgar Hoover. You know what they did to him? They sent him back to Afrika. For what? For nothing. Why? Because whenever a black man rise, they're going to come up with some mess on you. So if you ain't ready to die, shut up. If you ain't ready to be in prison, keep your mouth closed. Be like everybody else. If you ain't ready to suffer consequences, just shut up and be a good Negro and do what everybody else does. But if you're committed to your people and you're committed to the truth, then it's time to cry loud and spare not. Why is that? Because they're going to kill you anyway. So you need to have a cause for what you're going to do. Now, why would I share all this? I'm sharing all of this because I want you to know the only people in America that is holding us back is ourselves. And when we learn to rise and be what we know God wants us to be, there is no other group that can stop us from achieving. Remember, when the playing field is equal, what do we do as a people? We rise. When the playing field is unequal, we're suppressed. If you receive that word this morning, stand up, give God a hand praise in the house of God. Hallelujah. Mansa Musa.